Hello, I'm Jeanne Murphy. This is Talented People on Princeton Community Television. I hope you're having a great day. I want to introduce you to my guest right now. Her name is Jeanne Werner, and she is the author of the book N-O spells no, Y-E-S spells yes, and then maybe so, it's got to go. She is an expert. She's been a consultant. She's a resident of New Jersey, and she's here today to talk about really what is, it's so much more part of our lives than you could ever imagine. How many times you're faced with a no, a yes, or a maybe in a day. So welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jeanne.
So nice to see you again.
Thank you.
All right, okay, so first let's hear about you, Janet. Tell us about you.
So the part of about me I will tell you is my business. I've been working with my own business for 31 years, started in 1988.
Congratulations.
And thank you. Still going. It's gone through many cycles, as you can imagine. And, this, talking about the book, is really in the third cycle, which I want to publish. I like producing tools and publish books. But I started out in the corporate training and consulting fields. I left Schering-Plough in the pharmaceutical field as a technical trainer, launched into pretty much most of the pharmaceutical companies in New Jersey.
Wow.
Doing training, consulting, coaching. And then it evolved. I actually created a training center in the middle, my middle stage, but this last stage is almost entirely different because I'm working with small businesses and also doing publishing and printing of different tools. So definitely a third stage.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, and I love the fact that you've gone and you've created so many products that actually support what you're trying to educate people on. Let's go back to the beginning a little bit where that when you were talking about when you first got into the corporate world, you were training up to 3,000 different corporate employees over in
massive.
I don't even know how you train one person, so that is massive.
Yes.
And you also mentioned that you have had at least one of your customers for as long as 23 years because they need your services so long.
Yes. That was the balance. I had a small business client in the 90s that I still work with today. Absolutely fabulous. To see growth.
A lot.
Growth and evolution, partnership, with the owner. And I think I learned how to work with small business owners and small businesses from that one experience. Because the contrast was I was in Merck, Hoffman LaRoche, Novartis, Kraft General Foods, and I did get very large accounts. I had other people working with me, but we would work across different divisions: engineering, quality, manufacturing, research, and they were very large-scale organizational transformation projects. What a way to kick off my business. Yeah.
Wow, and you were talking about change management, culture. And I only say to everybody out there who knows, I'm not a corporate person. I'm very short. I worked for Disney Corporate for a short period of years, not too long. But it's funny whenever I think about anything, especially in small businesses as well as large. To me, what I know is the sales department and just about all the other departments are totally different type of people.
Different personalities.
It's like, let me get you the order. And then see you later, you fulfill. And they're like, what are you selling? And there's so many different ways that happens, between all of the different departments, logistics, manufacturing. So give us an example of a situation that you were able to kind of mend.
Oh, yes. Well, mend, connect. Connect is probably, the word. So in these large pharmaceutical firms, we were implementing vision from the top, across the board, down. And, there were two things that we did. One, we took the vision off the wall, put it on the table, put worksheets out in front of employees, and the worksheet said, what does this vision mean to me? And it was blank. And so the employees were facilitated through multiple sessions to look at, how does this impact me? What does it mean to me? How do I interpret that statement on the wall?
Yeah.
And then how does it fit for my job? Then how does it fit when I work across departments? How are we living this vision or the values or the mission? That took multiple years.
I just want to interrupt you, tell everybody. I don't know if you're old enough to know, but there was a time when you went to work, didn't matter where you went to work, and you were to walk in, put your coat down, sit down, and deliver a job without having anything else to do or say. You were not work-family balance. This is before work-family balance.
Right.
So if you want to meet somebody who actually has contributed to, like, technology, we can actually track it. We see what phone came in, and now we're doing whatever. But with being an engaged employee, or that they actually care, and there's awards for, you know, top 10 companies to work for in New Jersey, it's because of people like Janet who come in and made that. Yeah, especially so long ago, so that it's the norm now. It's like more important for people to want to go to work and love their job than ever.
Well, and we call it engagement. You know, the engagement is, that's the term now. In the 80s and the 90s when we were doing it, there were others doing it, but it wasn't so pervasive.
Right.
The language wasn't there, but it intuitively made sense. We need to be able to communicate together so that this is more efficient. And it, you know, it's more fun.
But I can't imagine selling it. That's why I give you so much credit about it, because you were sitting there as this person looking at the future, saying, you know, we need to start to get people engaged with each other. But you still had to sell it to the people who are writing the checks, saying, I'm going to give a little bit more time out, so the return on my investment is actually spent into the development of the personal growth thing, which is why she's here to talk about her book and her products. But again, hold the book up for a second, because I don't want to even jump forward to where we're going with the book. But I do think that everybody should get a little bit of an idea too about what does N-O spells no, Y-E-S spells yes. What does that mean, so we can follow you through all of these, you know, years of what you've brought down to, like you said, just an instant manager, kind of like a...
Yeah, it is like a 1-minute manager book. So I'm going to relate it to what we just talked about. You know, when I first started my business, I did one big yes. I'm doing it. Yes, I raised my hand. I didn't know how to do it, but I felt very called out, which a lot of entrepreneurs do.
Sure.
So that was a big yes.
Okay.
You know, and this is before I wrote the book, but, you know, to manage the multiple clients and multiple tasks in it, there were certain levels of no, I can't do this, no, not now.
Yeah.
And so it was almost like the early precursor, getting thrown into a very big arena. I had to learn those.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say I'm still learning them. There were times where I didn't say no enough.
Right.
If I spent too much money and, didn't quite plan it out well, managing the finances, managing the structure of the business, managing the client engagements. There was a maturing. I started out when I was 33.
Wow.
So people are going to start adding up where I am. But
oh, boy.
So the development
That's
of no and yes.
Lucky thing if that's what they're doing.
So no and yes was developed, but I wrote it, Jeannie, it's in the book, in 2004. We published this last year.
Yeah.
There were other levels of maturing to really understand that this applies to senior executives, frontline employees, little children, families at home. We'll talk about that. It has a lot of applications.
Person, just, a parent, anything.
Yeah, it applies to a lot.
Right,
and
yes.
what I did when I first wrote it, I actually started engaging with people and having conversations to find out, where does this really apply most? So, we can talk about that a little bit as well.
Yeah, but I wanted you to also mention, I remember we were talking about, if you picture, visualize like a setting in an office, small or large, where basically you've got these people who are just brand new maybe, or young, or energetic, or passionate, and they've got ideas to share, and they're throwing them out there at the table in the middle of a Monday morning sales meeting or whatever meeting, and then you've got the
naysayer,
no,
the blockers.
We don't have the money right now. That's not what
not
we're
on
here.
the plan.
Give us some of the things they say. They say no to budget, not on the plan. Just no.
Right, and and while that may be true, there's ways to say it to preserve the innovation, the enthusiasm. I'm going to say especially of young employees, but even seasoned employees. No one really wants their idea shut down. There's a way to say no and yes, which is what we get at. We spoke about Jeff Bezos in Amazon, and I love his model. He says he needs to teach managers to have a green light that's a go. More green lights, get the innovation going.
Yeah.
But then have a very clear, firm no or no, not now when it requires more decisions and investigation.
Yeah.
So, that to me is there's a way to do no and yes.
Yeah, that's so great. Keep going.
Yeah.
Because you're right. I mean, people don't want to be shut down and just told no. It's so engaging. And then when you do have a different way of saying it, which means that, not right now.
No, not now. No, not that way.
Yeah,
You know what?
right.
Why don't you go? Why don't you look at some other ways to approach this? That particular way is not going to fit. So there's a no on that. But I do like your idea. It's a yes idea.
Yeah.
And let's do some research on these parts, and then we're going to get back. We'll get into maybe so in a little bit.
Yeah.
But the yes is a whole nother thing too. You have all different angles. I notice in a lot of organizations there are a certain type of people that will say yes. They want to be liked and please the boss or even their teammates. And what happens with that, Jeannie? You overcommit.
Right.
And so you're saying yeses, you can't follow through, so you're either stressing out to take care of all the yeses or you don't follow through.
Right.
And that starts to erode trust. You're not reliable.
Credibility, yeah.
And you don't feel good. You're
Right.
feeling guilty that says, wait a minute, I said yes. So, now we're saying this is a major productivity thing. This is a trust building. It's a credibility strategy.
Right.
So saying too much yes is not good. Saying too much no is not good.
Right.
The book gets you to start sorting through that for yourself first, individually.
Tell us about the way that you present this in the book so that the person reading it's feeling like a one-on-one connection with you.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to pop to what the pages look like because, there's some prompting to get the book going. But, the pages are very simple. They, you could read this with a child. You could
Sure.
read it, obviously, with yourself. But it's an interactive, 1 or 2 lines per page to get you to start dialoguing almost with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
So people say it's a very quick read. It is, but there's a lot of meat inside
I'm
that
all
quick
about
read.
quick reads. Yeah, and I also love the fact that you said someone actually said they read it in an hour at the airport or so, and it was perfect.
Less than an hour.
Yeah, nice.
Airport's a good image because, there's waiting time in airports, and people do carry their big books, but this person did explain, he was sitting and waiting and he, had his book with him. He read it, but then it caused reflection time there was meaningful reflection times.
Absolutely.
And actually easy conversation if you want to talk to somebody.
Right.
It's very quick to get into. So we find that with focus groups as well. It doesn't take a lot to get a focus group of business leaders together, which we just did.
Yeah.
And even if they didn't read the book, they were able to talk about the value of no and yes.
Oh, yeah.
So you can talk about no and yes, then buy the book, or you can buy the book, read it, and then talk about it. You can go at any angle.
Let's talk about maybe a little bit then.
Oh, maybe so, or maybe not, Jeannie. What does that do? What does that conjure up? I'm thinking of the viewers. Some people say maybe a lot, and where does that leave you? It often leaves you hanging.
Oh, yes.
Maybe is a fence.
Oh, yes.
Maybe is right in the middle. Is it a no or is it a yes? And some people say maybe as a placeholder. They want to be nice. Well, maybe we'll get to that. In a parent-child situation, maybe we'll go out later.
Yeah, there you go. That one's terrible.
That one we remember because the child thinks it's a yes.
Right.
And the parent might pretty much know it's a no.
And that is so disappointing for the child. So I love the application to this towards young, because the younger they could be to understand the boundaries of the no and the yes.
No is good.
Then as they get older, they won't have to have a book
You
to
don't wrestle
remind
so much.
and feel guilty. But I do think that as an adult, I say I'm calling on an account like you, saying in a massive pharmaceutical business, and you're the leader, and I could see it, and you're the decision maker, and I want this account. And if I come to you and you say maybe, I'm going home and going out for dinner because I think I have a yes.
I think it's a yes. Wow,
and then
that was
I
a
never get
nightmare.
you on the phone again.
Right.
And then basically you've not done any favors. I'm a fool.
Yeah.
You didn't do me any favors. And then basically, like you say, you want to have some kind of trackability on your maybe answers, accountability or time, you said, again, because this is all about time management.
Yes.
And then all of a sudden, it's like, if you were to say to me, maybe, but if I'm going to let you know one way or the other by Friday,
Yes.
now I'll be saving my party dinner.
Exactly.
And I feel like it's fair.
Your mental energy is
Yes.
clean, it's clear.
And when you say no, I'm okay with that, because at least I'm not being held hostage to a maybe.
Exactly. You said it perfectly.
And I think it's really important, because there are so many times that you, as people in my world, where they're pitching to someone who has that answer ability, and then basically they cop out and give us a maybe. It's a wimp answer too.
It's a you know, a placeholder, a pleasing strategy, and it's really not emotionally honest.
Yeah.
You know, emotional honesty, you can tell that you feel good. Both parties
You're
do.
gonna either
when
yes
it's clear.
or no, right?
You know, maybe we'll do it that way, or maybe we'll do it this year, Jeannie. But let me get back to you.
Right.
So now you're saying, you know, there's a possibility. That's good.
Right.
And when are you going to get back to me? Friday.
Yeah.
Fine. That maybe is not a bad word.
No,
maybe
maybe
is okay.
it's awesome when you have that back end follow up
Yes.
deadline stuff, because I never
Yes.
thought about it before, but it makes total sense.
Yes.
And if people could be trained to be able to actually stop, like, okay, so let's do your stop
Ooh,
pause
stop
thing.
pause.
This is very cool. And by the way, I've been so intrigued with this whole process that she has for over a year now. Show them just first about the files, and then we'll talk about the stop pause.
So, Jeannie, you know, when I said I used to run, you know, massive groups of people through training programs, we had manuals back then. And over the years, I just, especially in small businesses, but then pretty much for anyone, I started to say, let me make them into more job aids, one-pagers. And more recently, you know, we're putting some key strategies or key practices, disciplines, that's the word, focus. You know, I don't want to have a training program on focus. I just want a sign that says, that gets somebody's attention without me telling.
Right.
We put them on file folders because sometimes, you know, instead of just having a piece of paper that gets lost, the file folder's used. Some people still use manila file folders.
Yes,
Not everyone.
I do.
This is a real powerful one. It's called assumption checking. And that wound up in pretty much all my interventions, especially where there's conflict. When we do assumption checking and use the language of assumptions, it de-emotionalizes the situation. And you start to use mental model language. My assumption is, I'm wondering if the assumption is useful. Is it a similar assumption that you have? What is your assumption? So we're actually talking a very grounded language. It doesn't mean there aren't feelings in there, but somehow they're grounded. It came from a lot of the work out of MIT with the Dialogue Project. Some people might remember Peter Senge. There was a lot of work coming out. So this has actually a lot of scientific basis to it.
Wow.
It's slowing down the electrons between people.
I'm like, what is that? Like thinking of all the applications, and one of them is actually families, couple counseling or in distress. I mean, it's got to be about, you say conflict. I mean, I can just see the assumptions going back and forth in the office place. How do you?
And the old thing, you know, just wipe away the old saying of, you know, assumptions make out of you and me. Assumptions, get rid of assumptions, don't have assumptions. No, absolutely not. It became very clear in the work from MIT that says assumptions are useful, and what we need to do is get them out on the table, out of our mental model. That says,
because like you have in here something about it has to do with the other person. I'm wondering what the other assumptions he or she might be operating from. And I'm wondering what assumption he or she is operating from. And I'm thinking, So it's almost like you have a checklist here to check what you are thinking, and then recheck why you are thinking this way. And then you have to all of a sudden switch it around and start, this is the stop part, to be able to try to defuse your own bomb or whatever you call it.
Absolutely. Defuse is a good word too.
That to reverse, so that maybe your assumptions are important, like you say, but they might not be right.
They're real. Some of them are all stuck in mental models. You know how your neurons are connected? They're there. And when you get them out and you start to have a guide to exchange, I've had groups, R&D groups, meet with sales and marketing in the same room. Now, those are two totally different energy levels, pacing, mental models, and the R&D group actually benefited the greatest because they said we had time for our voice. Our voice, we had time to think. There was the stop pause is the biggest
Oh yeah,
part.
no, we didn't get back to that yet.
Yeah.
But also say that you mentioned in the assumption that it had a lot of scientific facts.
Yes.
So it kind of relates to research and development type of personalities
Yes.
in general too, right?
Yeah, the languages. So,
Yeah.
it fits across the board. You mentioned families, yes, but I had most of the application and results in business. I've had small businesses, IT programmers. Again, instead of teaching communication skills, which people may or may not want, I'll use this, and it actually teaches communication skills.
Well, I think it would also be really important for the differences of the generations, because the assumptions in that regard are probably
that's a big
they're
one.
almost like in a box, and it's all stereotyped too. So your assumption could be something about millennials that is absolutely off base with that person.
That's a great topic. We could spend another hour.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
I want to just emphasize that, there's so much question and talking and teaching about this is how you treat millennials.
And
How do we
they don't
deal
even
with
want to
them?
be called that. They're like, I don't
Right.
want to be put on the zoo. I'm not up on a stage with
Right.
a name. Just call me a
Right.
person is my blanks.
Right, so I would skip that.
Yeah.
I would take this and actually use this in a cross-generational meeting.
Well, I can see
and
it
it starts to
the
happen. It's like,
assumptions,
somebody's asking me about my mental model and my
Right.
assumptions.
Well, people if you think about it, there's a lot of different people. You might meet one person who's 50 who acts like a 20-year-old. You might meet a 20-year-old who acts like a 50-year-old. So assumptions. That's assumption number 101 there. Talk about the pause. I like the pause.
So the stop pause is actually the number one. It's on our website. You can download it for free. Just to start. Actually, you can download the exercise for free.
Okay.
So the stop pause was the precursor to anything. People talk so fast, move so fast, think so fast. When you're talking, they're thinking about what they're going to say, not listening. So we use this as a placemat. Everyone gets one on the table. I don't even tell them. I don't teach them. It's there, and the group in a meeting is learning, oh, I really do have to stop and pause. Sometimes I will bring attention to it. But just stop, pause. What are we doing? Think, breathe, ask a good question, reflect. Simple. It's not that you don't know this.
And I think also that you could, it's interesting not to not know it, but it's also interesting to kind of study it, like what you're doing. You're calling attention to this to be studied and stop, pause. If I stop, pause, I'm actually going to make my maybe, or yes, into a no.
Yeah.
Or whatever, or, stop,
Not
pause.
an immediate reaction.
It's just not just checking it off and then offering under delivering. You have 5 minutes left, so I want to ask you, show some of these.
Oh, so
and especially explain about how you are available to visit with almost any small or large company that they can get in touch with you, and that you can actually have 1 hour, day-long trainings, months-long, and the book.
Okay,
Explain.
so I'll bridge all those things that you just offered.
And especially
so
these.
The no yes placemat is again something in a meeting that very quickly we can start to say we're making decisions about budget. What's on the no list, what's on the yes list. And then we start talking about them because everybody might have different items here. Sometimes we start a meeting with this little exercise that's a cutout cube. People are cutting it out with a scissor. Then they're putting it together in tape. Now, I don't stop to do the exercise. I start the meeting on time. Scissors and these are sitting out. And as we get started with agenda and objectives, people are starting to do it because and then as you're doing it, you're actually reading it and getting your mind warmed up for the meeting. So again, simple, placemat is simple. Using these no, yes, maybe buttons are simple. I bought them from an online trainer's warehouse.
That is so
I know
fun.
you like to press the buttons. You want to press?
I got. And then this one.
For the last time, no.
And I think it's so funny. I think it would be so funny if you were training someone, and if the person was always saying yes, then you would leave that there with them for a week. And then people like George, our executive producer, when he sees us, he's always saying yes. We would leave him with no.
No.
And then I would laugh so hard because I believe that you are right. And then that would be funny to take away the maybes for the maybe people.
We might. So everything is simple. It has to be simple because let's talk about small business.
Simple is why it's the best. Because if it's too complicated, people they can't keep up with it. This is
There's
why it's
too much.
It's worth it. 1 minute.
Yeah. So for small businesses, we go in and within an hour we do something very specific in a meeting and they get a result. Everything is now condensed. Short coaching clinics.
Small book.
Yeah.
Walk away with it 1 hour, pick it up online. You can have Janet speak to your group. You can see how much fun it is, and you can actually realize how important, think about it, no and yes affect your life and maybe all day long in every way. So I think you should put this on the top of your reading list and get in touch with us over here at Talented People. I'm Jeanne Murphy. My guest again is Janet Werner. Thank you so much for coming tonight, and have a great week. Thanks for watching, and